be in the sequel.
We all go a little mad sometimes here at the Disenfranchised Podcast, where that podcast is all about those franchises of one, those films that fancy themselves full-fledged franchises before falling flat on their face after the first film. I am your host, Stephen Foxworthy, going off the rails on a crazy train, and I am joined, as usual, by my co-host. You might know him by his given name, but we all know him as codename Trixie. It's Tucker. Hey, Tucker.
Hi, Stephen. How's it going?
It goes, man. How are you doing tonight?
I'm okay. I'm really excited to talk about this movie, Stephen. I really am.
We should also notice that our friend Brett has not been feeling himself since he drank the water. We wish him a speedy recovery and many happy returns. But until then,
he's real close to the crick.
He is, weirdly.
So, we're far from the crick.
We are. We're pretty far from the crick. So
hasn't even gotten to us yet.
What hasn't gotten to us, Tucker?
Oh, what? Straight up what?
What hasn't gotten to us, codename Trixie? And we are the Disenfranchised Podcast. So yeah, we are here. It's the last week of October. It is the last episode of October. It is our last episode of our 2023 Spooky-thon, which is why we are definitely feeling and missing the presence of Brett this week. But this whole month we've been talking about Romero remakes that were meant to kick off franchises but didn't. And I think we've come to the last one, and it's the only one that doesn't have zombies in it, weirdly. Tucker, what movie are we talking about today?
We're talking about the Crazies, or as they say in Germany, Das Crazies.
Los Crazies in Espanol.
Yes.
Les Crazies in French.
Yes. Yeah.
Or
and in Canada, they say the Crazies, eh?
Damn it, you took it. I was about to do that. Yes, we're talking about the 2010 remake of The Crazies, directed by Breck Eisner, returning to the podcast. Writers Scott Kosar and Ray Wright, and starring.
Wait, what did he do that you already covered?
The Last Witch Hunter.
Oh yeah. I wish that had a better script.
He also directed future episode of this podcast, Sahara. So. Yeah,
I've never had any interest in that. That'll be interesting to watch.
He's directed 3 feature films, and they are all able to be covered on this podcast, which is wild.
Sweet, let's do it.
And starring Rhoda Mitchell, Timothy Oliphant, also returning to the show. Danielle Panabaker,
much
also
better cast
returning
this time around.
Also returning to the show, Danielle Panabaker, Joe Anderson, Christy Lynn Smith, Brett Rickaby, Preston Bailey, John Aylward, I love that guy, and many others. Tucker, what a cast, what a picture.
Yeah, I really like this movie. And while we're talking about the cast,
it's pretty good.
Really quickly, we should mention that Lynn Lowry from the original is the lady on the bike.
She is the lady singing the haunting song, riding through the center of town on a bicycle. And she's dressed up like a little child and singing a very haunting song, but she is a grown-ass woman.
And she's also the reason that I went on a 6.5-hour rabbit hole of cat people movies this last week. If you're interested in that, check out the Patreon. We talked all about it.
Yeah, we're that's coming out this Sunday. So head on over to patreon.com/disenfranchpod to get the latest episode of What Are We Watching when it drops.
Because she's in everything.
Apparently, yeah. She's been in a lot of shit.
Everything.
So yeah.
But yeah, I really like this movie, and I really like the cast too.
Yeah, the cast
I really
is
like.
great.
I mean, obviously, Timothy Oliphant and Rhoda Mitchell, I really like their chemistry, and they really stand out as the leads, but I really like Joe Anderson as Russell, because I really like how kind of simple that character appears, but how complicated he becomes. And I really appreciate his performance of that character. I don't think anybody else could have done it that way. Like, I don't want anybody else to play that role ever.
That's fair.
Because I thought he was that good.
Right on. Like I was watching with my partner. My partner did not care for this movie.
Really?
But she was like, yeah, Timothy Oliphant, like she's like, everyone seems wooden, like really wooden. I was like, wait, you were calling a Timothy Oliphant performance wooden? How dare you? The audacity. She's like, no, I'm like, no, he everything he does, with the exception of maybe Santa Clarita Diet, is very wooden.
That's kind of his thing, you know?
But here's the thing: the man. I've not seen Justified. To be fair, I have not seen Justified, so I can't speak authoritatively on that. But like Deadwood, wooden, Hitman, wooden, and I think I said this on our
Scream
Hitman,
2.
fairly wooden.
Yeah.
What I like, I think Santa Clarita Diet might be one of the best things he's ever done, and I think I said this on the Hitman episode. But get Timothy Oliphant in some comedy. Like that dude needs to be doing comedy, and it's a shame that comedy doesn't happen anymore.
That's
But
why you need to check out Fargo season 4, Stephen.
is he
Because
in it?
Timothy Oliphant is in it.
Oh.
And though it's not a comedy, his character is very comedic.
And I like that. I love that
He
mode for
is
him, and I think he does it
hilarious
really well.
in that
There,
show. He's like a Texas Ranger that's very religious.
mm,
And it's really, really funny. And he nails it. Then he plays it straight. It's not funny because he's like, like, no, it's not
right.
clown shoes. He's like playing it straight, and that's why it's funny.
No, and I mean, humor is found in honesty. So if you can be very true to something, and you can find the humor in it fairly easily. That's the crazy thing, I believe, as a amateur actor. But like I saw, there's a clip of him on Conan where he gives his quote masterclass on screen versus stage acting.
Mm-hmm.
And because Conan asks him what the difference is, and he's like, I think we could help people. Can you help me out? Can you come around the desk here? And so Conan comes around the desk and like gets down, like crouches down to his level. And he goes, now see, when it's film, he goes, I want you to pull it, tells the camera guy, I want you to pull in close, like right here. And when I tell you, pull out. And they just like pull back. And he goes, okay. So, and he's like talking to Conan. He's like, it's all right here. Like everything on screen, on camera, on TV, it's all right here. It's all in the face. And what's happening outside the frame, it doesn't matter, but it's very intense. And I'm saying, stay with me. And Conan's like, I'm staying with you. And you hear the audience like starting to laugh. And he's like, stay with me. I'm talking to you, and I'm really intense right now. He goes, and pull back, and he pulls back, and his pants are at his ankles, and he is just completely dropped trowel. And he goes, and now it's a completely different scene. Because in theater, you see all of it. Like everything is up for grabs. Whereas in film, it doesn't, which is why Peter Cushing wore fucking slippers on the Death Star in Star Wars, because the boots were uncomfortable. So, yeah.
Marlon Brando famously pantsless through most of his career.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like, that's a real thing.
Like, and not just Last Tango in Paris, like all the movies. Yeah.
No, like just because your boy just, he just got uncomfortable. Sit around. If you can sit around in your boxes at work, more power to you.
One of my simultaneously favorite and least favorite Marlon Brando stories is the fact that he refused to, on the movie The Game, which is I think one of his last films, if not his final film, he refused to listen to anything.
You mean the score?
The score, that is what I mean. Sorry, I said The Game.
Ooh, fucked up with The Game, boy.
The score. No, I do mean the score.
There you go. With Eddie Norton, yeah.
Yeah, and Bobby D. He refused to take any direction from Frank Oz because he refused to take direction from Miss Piggy.
From a Muppet, yeah, from straight up Miss Piggy.
He goes, I won't take direction from Miss Piggy. So Frank had to give all of his direction to De Niro, who would then give it to Brando. Like he had to go through the other actors on set. Like it's insane.
He should have been a drummer. He's so brilliant, but such an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Every good drummer I've ever met, such an asshole.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's not entirely been my experience, but I know a couple of asshole drummers. So
I'm not disparaging all drummers. I am well aware that not all drummers are assholes. Just
there are exceptions to every rule.
Overwhelming number of drummers that I've met, especially the good ones.
Mm-hmm. It's like guys named Josh. Like not everyone named Josh is an asshole, but a lot of them are, and it kind of ruins it for the rest of you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes. Yeah.
It's okay, Josh. We like you.
You're one of the good ones, Josh. It's okay. Anyway, we are
Cut
here to
that, cut that,
talk.
cut that, cut that.
It might actually get cut.
That might. It really might.
It won't. I
Wowzers.
guarantee you it probably won't.
Oh.
Anyway, we are here to talk about the 2010 film The Crazies. Is crazy. Wah!
Yeah, just like that.
Just like that. Yeah, this movie's fucking wild, dude.
It's really good.
Do you want to just get the plot out of the way so we can just dig into this bitch?
Well, we should talk about our histories with this film. It should be
Yeah,
pretty
let's
short for
do it.
both of us.
I just watched it for the first time today. You go.
Well, The Crazies, the original one, I
saw that one for the first time
probably-
yesterday. Go.
I probably saw that in my early 20s.
Mm.
That was when Anchor Bay was really digging deep and putting out DVDs of shit that you hadn't been able to get a hold of for years. And The
God bless
Crazies
Anchor
was one
Bay.
of those things. And so I got that and I watched it and I thought it was phenomenal.
Mhm.
And I've been a fan of it ever since. It's not something that I watch often. I'd say it's in the every 5 years
Mhm.
category, you know, more or less. Sometimes it'll be less, sometimes it'll be more, but average
Sure,
of
sure.
5 years between watches. Just because it's such an upsetting film.
It
Like,
is.
that movie has always upset me, and the older I get, the more it upsets me. But I love it. It's such a good movie, but it's so upsetting because,
Well,
like
I
I
said
said,
this-
I
Yeah,
was saying during the "What Are We Watching?" I was saying that it's such a low budget.
Mhm.
It really helps the film because you feel more like a fly on the wall,
Right.
or and not even documentary style. Like past that, like there isn't
Mhm.
even a documentary crew. You're just somehow like witnessing this.
Right.
And it's horrifying, it's unnerving, and it's unsettling, and honestly it makes me uncomfortable, and I
Yeah.
love it.
And I said this during What Are We Watching as well, like especially after, post 2020 and, looking at the government response to an actual pandemic, it really hits a lot differently.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty, and, to hear these people talking about a virus and they're initially not sure where it comes from or what it is and like how it spreads and like kind of feeding false information and like putting people together and and then not listening to the people that are supposedly the experts on the thing. Like it's really fucking harrowing.
I gotta say, the most disturbing part about both films for me, and I'll get to my experience with the remake here in a second, is the amount of and it just seems like a side thing because it's not violent or gory or action or whatever, but they keep splitting up children from their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And that really, really bothers me, like to my
Yeah.
core. To see that happen just like destroys me.
Well, you
Like,
are a
the
father,
first-
so that tracks. That makes sense.
Oh, the dread that is there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just insane. Like, there's some of it in the original, and then when they're first rounding everybody up in the remake,
Mm-hmm.
and that dude just snatches that toddler from that lady. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
fuck no, dude. Like, it's like coming through the
Right.
TV at that guy. Like, oh no, dude.
Yeah, dude.
No.
It's
Ooh,
man.
it's very upsetting.
It is.
Ooh, like primal in a primal
those
way. It's
little
upsetting.
moments. Yeah, it's those little moments too. It's not even any like major moments, but it's the little things like that make them. And I would argue the original is leaps and bounds more disturbing than the remake. Honestly,
I agree.
For one very obvious reason, but a lot of subtle little reasons as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the biggest difference is that the remake it's just a movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a regular old movie. It's a good ass movie, but it's just a regular ass movie. It's not like this very weird experience like the original one is. It's a very unique experience. Just just watching the film is a unique experience. You don't watch movies like that, not normally.
Well, and
I
was telling you, like, like Romero's kind of a prophet, man. Like he presaged a lot. Like that guy just kind of knew what what it was about and like knew how to put it out there so that people could like reckon with it, even if they
Yeah.
in very large part they were not ready to reckon with it. But he put it out there and like, I don't know, fucking deal with it, dude. Like wow, what a filmmaker.
Yeah. Really cool dude. I saw
Mm-hmm.
the remake, which George Romero produced. The remake, he
Executive
was
produced, yeah.
executive producer on that, so he saw some cash for sure. So that was
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Good for him.
Um, that's what I like about a lot of Wes Craven remakes too, is that Wes Craven will executive produce them, just
Mm-hmm.
so that he's just kind of there, and he's like, I don't know, maybe like I'm sure he consults a bit.
I don't think he does. Like executive producer is classic, like in name only kind of a
Well,
thing, like
I
producer
think
in
I
name
think
only.
it I think it really depends. I have heard that the who was I just talking about?
Wes Craven?
Yes, I have heard that on remakes of his
Mm-hmm.
movies, he consulted a bit, like with the script and stuff. Not
Sure.
with like Wishmaster or any of that Wes Craven, like Dracula 2000. None of that shit. He ain't
Right.
give a
Yeah,
fuck
yeah,
about
yeah.
that. He's just like, here's some money, make your movie. Maybe
Well,
we'll
and I'm
make something.
talking
Who
like
knows?
the deep nightmare like movies and shit like that. Like there's no way he's consulting on it. And if he is, they're not paying
No,
attention.
no, absolutely not. I do believe I had an issue of Fangoria that came out that was advertising this when I still got Fangoria sent to me at my house. I'm a big direct edition guy. Like I don't
You
want to
are.
fuck around. I don't want to fuck around and go like comic books. Back when I was a kid, I used to have like 3 or 4 different comic books coming in my mailbox. That's what I want for Christmas for my birthday. I'd be like, get me a fucking year subscription to ASM or like X-Men or something or What If. And so that's what I would get for like Christmas and birthdays. So I'd have magazines, comic books. Man, I'm not trying to bother my parents for that every time I go to the goddamn store.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just get me the subscription for Christmas, and then we don't have to talk about it ever again. Like, you don't even have to take me out to get it. Like, it's just gonna come to me.
It'll come to the house, right?
I
As
was
God
very
intended.
convincing. Yes. So I had like a million magazines and a million comic books coming to me when I was a kid. But I used to get Fangoria, and I remember the issue that this didn't come out when I was a kid, by the way. I'm just saying I started doing that when I was a kid, and up
Sure.
until it became pretty much impossible to do that, I continued to. So I was probably getting it delivered to my house, or I was buying it at the comic book shop when this came out. And I remember the article saying that Romero um, did consult creatively on it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of like they would run stuff past him, kind of things. They'd be like, hey George, does this sound rad? And he'd be like, yeah, that sounds rad. Or he'd be like, nah, it doesn't sound rad. Like
Yeah, no
very
thanks.
basic consulting kind of stuff. Like
Right.
in no way guiding it artistically, but still giving his opinion.
Correct. Yeah. Providing the insights when requested.
And I think that's great when you're doing a remake and you can get the original director or writer or something to give you that kind of feedback to where they don't have a hand in it, but they're still kind of, if you have some questions for them.
Beyond just like
I think it's
the
perfect.
vague giving it their blessing kind of thing, like go and
Mm-hmm.
God bless, but actually getting their input, I think is valuable.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think like that's definitely a role that Romero played on the first movie we covered this month, the remake of
Well,
Night of the Living Dead.
shit, he basically co-directed that, the way I hear it. To hear Tom
Right.
Savini tell it, he basically co-directed that.
Makes sense. Like, and again, Savini, it feels like Savini kind of worships Romero, so it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense that would be like the Savini would probably absolutely defer to Romero on probably anything, honestly.
Savini had been with no better way to say this, up George Romero's ass for so long
Mm-hmm.
that he was supposed to do the effects on the original Night of the Living Dead, but he was in Vietnam.
Vietnam.
Yeah, dude, he was out there like in the jungle listening to Fortunate Son over and over on loop. Just
Because
like
how
every
else
time
would
a
he have known
helicopter
he was
passes, he's
in?
like, wait.
How else would he have known he was in Vietnam?
Yeah, right.
I think whenever there wasn't a helicopter going by, it was Buffalo Springfield's For What It's
Oh
Worth.
yeah, there's something happening here. Yes. I actually get offended if there's a Vietnam scene in a movie and that song is not there, or if
I
a
feel like
movie
you've
takes place in
mentioned that
Vietnam.
recently. movie. Like, I feel like you've mentioned that within the last couple of weeks.
That's possible, but it's weird because I remember mentioning it in a conversation with someone completely different. Steven, are you my FBI agent? Are you secretly my FBI agent?
God, if so, I am underqualified and underpaid. I tell you that right now.
Paid? You're getting paid?
Yeah, FBI agents typically do, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not, and that's the problem. But no, man, like, no, absolutely, like getting Romero on, because I think the only movie we've covered that Romero doesn't have at least some vested interest in this month was last week's Day of the Dead, which is easily the nadir of all the movies that we've covered this month. Like, the Day of the Dead remake, and again, we use that term loosely, is the worst. It's fucking the worst movie we've covered this month.
It's really bad. But I will repeat once again, it's one of those bad movies. You get the right people around and maybe the right substances, you're gonna have a really good time, especially that first half. There's some just nuggets, some golden nuggets of terrible dialogue.
You know
Beautiful.
What? Where's Mom?
Exactly, man. That's what I'm talking about.
All right, calm down, Nick Cannon. It's okay.
I'll give you money.
Oh, what a D-bag. What a D-bag. All right.
Let's do the plot, Steven. Let's do it. Let's fucking do it. No, wait. No, you said yours. It was
I just watched I watched the original last night. I watched the remake earlier today. Like, I mean, I can tell you my thoughts on Timothy Oliphant's career, but I feel like I've done that a couple times already.
We have talked about it, yeah. We even briefly touched upon it earlier. Enough to kind of recap, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's I dug and we'll get into this more later, but there are things I really enjoyed about this remake and things I really didn't, and the things that I really didn't cost this movie a whole half star for me.
Well, let's get on with the plot, because I'm dying to know what it is you didn't like about this movie.
Right on. So this is the plot in 60 seconds. It's the part of the show where at the behest of what is it we say, the Canadian Quarter of Indifference.
There she is. Yeah.
Oh, good, you found her. I noticed you were rifling through some change there.
That's Caribbean. Look, I've got a Caribbean quarter, and I've also got one from the Bahamas.
Billy Ocean
as well.
Get here?
I'm a share the same dream. Ooh, that harmony on that.
Hearts will beat as one.
No more love run. Yeah, dude.
Love it.
Billy Ocean. Suddenly. Okay, I'm done. No more.
Billy Ocean. Bring back Billy Ocean.
He didn't go anywhere, man. He's still around.
I know, but bring him back to the mainstream is what I'm saying.
Life has no meaning.
Let's let Billy Ocean have like a Rick Astley moment, please and thank you.
Please.
Like, he needs it. And I'm here for it, to be completely honest with you.
You know what, Billy Ocean? Get out of my dreams. Get into my car.
That's it.
Get into my car. Ugh. I don't know if you guys can do. Most people don't realize how way into Billy Ocean I am.
No, Billy Ocean.
It's pretty much half of my life, is Billy Ocean. You laugh, but it's true.
Really, you've got a BBO and an AEO or ABO, like before Billy Ocean and after Billy Ocean time in your life.
No, there's no such thing. Billy Ocean's always been there. There is no before Billy, man. I don't know what life is without Billy. In fact, life has no meaning to me without Billy, you know?
Wild.
Ooh.
Fucking wild.
That's one of the things. Billy Ocean and Tom Petty are the two artists when the season is over.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go out back into the campground at night, put my headphones on, and sing Billy Ocean songs and Tom Petty songs at the top of my fucking lungs at like 2:00 in the morning. And it feels great.
You know who my artist to do that with is?
Who dat?
And it's an artist that I have been physically compared to on more than one occasion. recently deceased, actually died, I think just last year, and just rocked my fucking world because I'm such a big fan of this artist.
Is it
Not of his
Meatloaf?
politics. Yeah, it's Meatloaf. Of course it's fucking Meatloaf. I fucking love Meatloaf, man. King of the power
I
ballad.
forgot that he died last year, man.
Yeah, man.
Oh, that's right, because I watched Tenacious D and Pick of Destiny in honor of him the day he died.
That's right. I listened to the entirety of one of my all-time favorite albums, Bad Out of Hell, which I've been re-listening to over the last like week. My partner like mentioned, like asked me a question like, what are your favorite albums? And Bad Out of Hell was absolutely one of my top 5 favorite albums. I love that album, like top to bottom. There are no misses on that album. So
Steven, we need to do karaoke, and you and I need to do a duet of Paradise by the Dashboard Light. I'll be the lady, don't worry. I can handle it. But because everybody does it and everybody fucks it up.
mhm.
It's like, why even do a song at karaoke that you don't know well enough to do it at karaoke? Even if you
Though it's
suck at
cold
singing,
and lonely in the
you
deep
should know the
dark
song.
night,
Yeah, dude.
I can see paradise by the dashboard light. I love that.
Yeah, dude.
Meatloaf,
We'll do it.
man. Fuck, love
That's
that
it
guy.
right there. Bonk. If we ever go to karaoke, when we go to karaoke, Steven, we'll
And
do
we'll
Paradise
need
by
to
the
get
Dashboard
we'll
Light.
need to get a third party to record it so we can put it up here behind the paywall for our patrons.
Oh yeah, dude. That video is going out. It's going wide.
Yeah. No, but it's not going like live. It's for patrons only, disenfranchised, or patreon.com/disenfranchised patrons only.
Here's what we do. We do a pop-up video. We put it out for just like a little bit and like maybe put some whispers out on social media of like, oh man, if you went to this place, maybe you'd see something really cool. And then people would see it and then we'd take it down. And it'd be lost media unless you were on the Patreon.
We do like a Dark Knight style like viral marketing thing where like people have to like put together like pieces like geocaching and shit.
And then it's just us singing Paradise by the
just-
Dashboard like in some shit bar. Like,
Yep. Taken with a shitty cell phone camera. Absolutely.
yes.
I love this for
way
us.
Way into it. Yeah.
Anyway,
that plot.
Anyway,
that
plot in 60. God, we digress so heavily.
Hey, Billy Ocean. You talk about Billy Ocean, we're gonna be here for a minute. So
Meatloaf, son.
and
breakfast,
also Meatloaf,
lunch,
sure,
and
but
dinner.
yeah, dude. What's that guy? What's his writing partner guy's
Jim
name?
Steinman.
Because you know what I've noticed a lot since probably the early 2000s is when any of his records are mentioned, they always say Meatloaf and Jim Steinman instead of just it's a Meatloaf record.
Because
but I feel like they kind of have the same relationship that like Elton John and that one dude have, right?
Bernie Taupin, yeah.
Yeah, he just writes this like they're two heads of the same dragon. Like,
but here's the thing, like not all of Meatloaf's songs are Jim Steinman. Like Bad Out of Hell 3 has I think maybe 2 or 3 Steinman songs and the rest are written by someone else.
Yeah.
Now one of them is like the superior rendition of It's All Coming Back to Me Now, which he duets with Marion Raven, which is
nice.
I will tell you the perfect version of that song. I actually made my partner listen to it, like watch the music video for it earlier this week because I was just as soon as she got me thinking about like my favorite albums, I just had Meatloaf on the brain constantly. And that is one of my favorite Meatloaf tracks, like without question. It's so fucking good. But yeah, but like Simon wrote like Total Eclipse of the Heart. He wrote Making Love Out of Nothing at All. Like if there's like a really epic power ballad from like a specific point in time, chances are Jim Steinman was behind it, but no one did Steinman better than Meatloaf. And I don't think Meatloaf was ever better than when he was singing anything not written by Jim Steinman. Like Jim Steinman was when he was when Meatloaf was singing with Jim Steinman, both of those artists were at their pinnacle. And like Meatloaf perfected everything that Steinman wrote, and Steinman was able to play to Meatloaf's strengths in a way that no other writer could. And it's just like that kind of perfect artistic fusion that like comes along maybe once in a lifetime for an artist. And it was so good. It was so good to watch them cook.
Yeah, dude.
I love it.
It sounds rad.
And Steinman wrote all the songs for Bad Out of Hell's 1 and 2. So
I appreciate your enthusiasm for Meatloaf a Day.
I fucking love Meatloaf a Day, man.
It brings me joy
I am
that
a
he
meat.
brings you joy.
I fucking love it, dude.
We're
And
just all joyous now.
I've gotten a lot of shit from my meatloaf love, but I got to tell you,
What? Who
I
doesn't
have
love meatloaf? At
people
least like peripherally,
people,
Like
man.
Meatloaf's not right in front of me, but like I got a good side eye on him. You know what I mean? He's
I
no Billy
do.
Ocean for me, but like
Sure.
at least I'm aware and I know what's up.
Actually, like
How do you?
I went to a brewery just around the corner from my apartment not too long ago, and there was a guy in there, and he stops me as soon as I walk in the door. He's like, "Oh my god, you look just like Meatloaf."
Wowzers!
I was like, "I was not prepared for this today, sir, but thank you." And then
I
the
do
second
sign
time,
autographs of him
and then
actually for
the
$60.
I came back again, and he was there, and he looked at me and he shook his head. He goes, "I swear you look so much like meat," and I was just like, "You're not the first to say so, sir." Like, but yeah, no, I love Meatloaf, man. Actually,
Me
friend of the
too.
podcast, Andrew Greetings, was the first one who told me I looked like Meatloaf and actually kickstarted my Meatloaf obsession. So thank you, Andrew. He'll be on he's a future guest of the podcast. He'll be on one of
He
these
will
days.
be missed. Oh,
No, he'll be on the podcast.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, did you find the Canadian Quarter of Indifference?
I done been found it, Steven.
Okay, well, look, we had a whole tangent sidebar on Meatloaf and Billy Ocean, and it needed to happen. Look, if
I
we're not
agree.
going on tangents, are we even a podcast?
Ooh, I don't know.
I don't know either. Like, otherwise we're just
Maybe.
like two buddies talking to each other. But anyway, the plot in 60 seconds. This is the part where, at the behest of the Canadian Quarter of Indifference, which Tucker will flip, we will decide which of us will be recounting the plot of 2010's The Crazies in 60 seconds or less. Tucker, give that one a coin a flippy flip.
Okay, you're gonna call it in the air, yeah?
I am.
Okay, queen or moose, Steven. Queen or moose. Here we go. Hi.
I'm calling tails.
It is tails.
Mwahahaha.
You finally got the moose.
I finally got the moose, which means it's finally time for you to do the plot.
I will do the plot. I'm not excited about it though.
I mean, when are we ever?
Sometimes I am, but this one, it's a little bit of a road movie without being a road movie.
It
and
is.
I don't like that. I enjoy those movies, but like the beats, all the beats don't exactly stick with me if I don't watch them a whole lot,
Right.
But I think I got the broad strokes.
Well, I have 60 seconds on the clock. I will give you the 30 and 10-second warnings as I do. Your time will start whenever you do.
Oh shit! How does it start? The guy at the baseball game. So there's a little league game, and this dude comes out with his gun, and the sheriff's like, "Hey, man," and the guy's like, "What?" And it's like he doesn't say anything, but his face is like, "What?" And he goes to shoot the sheriff, and the sheriff shoots him. And some people are mad at him for that, but it turns out he was crazy with the Trixie virus, which was accidentally, there was a plane that was carrying it to be destroyed that fucking crashed in the woods and got in the water supply, so people are going
30 seconds.
crazy. And so eventually you get the sheriff and his wife, the deputy, and that gal from the hospital or whatever, and they're together, and they go to get her boyfriend, and he gets killed and his mom gets killed, but they tell the army guy, they're like, "No, don't tell on us, Mr. Army Guy, we want to be in the sequel." And so he doesn't tell on them.
10
and
seconds.
So they go to the truck stop, and then like everybody dies except for the sheriff and his wife, and they get to Des Moines. The end.
Cedar Rapids.
Same thing.
Where it's all gonna start again.
Yeah, dude. Kind of. They did the nuke in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the original one, they talked about it a bit.
Right.
And they may have done it. They may have done it. We don't know. Because once Homeboy leaves, once they're like, "No, you gotta go it's in fucking Tennessee or whatever now, so you gotta go check that out." And he's like,
Louisville.
"All right." And he just hops up on the helicopter. He's like, "Poof!" And that's the end of the movie.
Strips all his clothes off, puts on new clothes, and pieces out.
That's my impression of it.
Tucker over here
Yeah.
doing visual comedy on an auditory medium.
It's just for you, Steven. It's all for you.
Oh, now jump off the roof.
No.
Oh, I thought you were doing an Omen reference.
No, they do the nuke in this one though.
They do. They absolutely do. Like they nuke this fictional Iowa town.
And luckily there's nobody there when they do.
Well, no one that's not crazy that we know
Or
of.
dead. Because they
Right.
killed all the military, killed all the infected they could. They killed all the people that weren't infected also.
Right. That's kind of the
Remember with
big,
the
like,
wristbands, you remember that they show them
yeah.
at the end, you're like, holy fuck, they just killed everybody.
Yeah. I mean, that's the most horrifying reveal of the movie is when you pan out through that truck and you see that they're all like they've killed literally everyone. Like she's like his wife is laying on the ground when they're in the truck stop, which is supposed to, I think was supposed to be like the refuge where they were taking everybody, and she just has
Well, that's where they were the night. That's where they
handful
took
of shells.
Yeah, that's where they took the people who were not infected, was to the truck stop. That's where the scene where the guy rips the kid from the lady.
Yes.
That's at the truck stop. That's where he's talking to the one guy and he's like, yo, I'm going to go get my wife and you're not gonna, and we're not going to concentrate on the reasons for either of those motherfucking things we about to do.
Right.
The end. That guy's like, all right, I understand.
You don't ask me why I'm going back for your wife. I won't ask you why you're not. Yeah.
It's just a really good line.
It's
I really like that part.
good line. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the good pieces of dialogue here. I don't know. Like there are things about this movie I really like. Like I simultaneously like and dislike the choice that this film makes to focus entirely on the civilian population and not on the government response.
Yeah, I kind of miss that too. I don't think I feel like the movie is just like the original, about 20 minutes too long, if I'm being honest.
Agreed. And I feel like this is actually shorter than the original too.
This one's an hour and 40, I believe. Right.
It is.
I think the original's right at an hour and 40 as well. Hour and 39, I believe.
143, hour 43. So just a hair longer, the original. But
I feel like that's something I would have liked to have seen, but I don't think there was really any room for it because of the character development that they were trying to do with the survivors, you know.
Right. No, and
I'd rather get a spin-off movie, honestly, where we just get that whole movie from their perspective.
The one thing I really feel like we're missing is a Dr. Watts character, like a Richard France kind of presence.
Dummies.
Who is also the one-eyed scientist on Dawn of the Dead. And was also...
did you know he's the world's foremost expert on Orson Welles' stage career?
Oh, is that why he has not done a movie since 19?
Can you see that in him, though? Can you see the Orson Welles in him just a little bit?
100% can.
Yes.
And I fucking love it. Yes.
You got to go to his Wikipedia page, dude. Check him out on Wikipedia. It's really interesting stuff he's done with Orson Welles theater.
I absolutely will now. Because he's such a compelling presence in every one of the movies I've seen him in. He was also in another Romero film, There's Always Vanilla, which Romero considers one of his worst films, which I think was the film he made before the Crazies.
It was right after Night of the Living Dead, and like for the longest time,
he's also apparently an
uncredited
zombie in. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Richard Francis, this is, I think, his largest role in a Romero film, and he's so good in it. And like, I miss that kind of a presence. Like, that guy is so compelling to look at. Like, I want to get just like a jowly character actor in there to like do all the shit he was doing and just like be shouting and condescending and not telling anyone shit. Like, cause I also think that the original is far more tragic than the remake. Like there are
Mhm.
moments, there are elements of
Especially what
tragedy.
happens to him, to your boy you were just talking about, man.
Exactly. No,
He
that's
figures
what I'm
it
about to
out,
say.
and
Yeah.
he rolls out to tell everybody, and they're like, "Who are you? Get over there." And he's like, "No, no, I do you know who I am?" And they're like,
E-
"No, actually, we don't. Fuck off."
And
Like, and
and
you're like,
he
"What?
because
What?"
he's so adamant and so like insistent, they think he's one of the crazies, and so they shove him in with them. And while he's
I love
trying to
it so much.
escape, he actually
The
causes
whole
them to
the
overpower the people there and ends up dying in and breaking the vials of blood that he had found, the basically that held the cure for the damn
and he's
thing.
the cure that he'd spent the whole movie up to
Yes,
that point in several scenes, several
correct.
key scenes. And then he just walks out, and the guards are like, "Fuck you, dude," and it's over. It's over.
Yeah, at
That's
that
it.
point all hope dies,
That's
like
it.
any chance of like that going forward. And because at the end they say multiple times, we had no idea what he was working on, we had no idea we're hoping someone can figure it out, someone else from the Trixie board is going to be down there to help you in Louisville when you get there, but I don't know what he was doing, like. And that's one element. Like the other is what happens to Judy. Like Judy's a very
Mhm.
tragic figure in this movie, and
Yeah.
Kathy, the Lynn Lowry, the little girl.
Mhm.
Like,
Yep.
holy shit, that's fucking tragic. Like,
Mhm.
and her death scene is so poignant. And to hear Lynn Lowry talk about it, she's like, I wanted to do more. I wanted to like ham it up. And Romero was like, no, just give me an O and then fall over. And I think as she got older, she learned to appreciate what that was going for. But it's such a powerful, tragic moment. And then like that scene with her and her dad is, God, it's so fucking disturbing. And
Yeah.
I mean, the original is just steeped in tragedy. But I think one of the biggest tragedies, what happens to Dr. Watts, we just don't get. We don't get it in this movie. Like I was looking through
Mhm.
after I watched the original, I was kind of like, well, who plays the analog of not even Dr. Watts, but who plays the analog of um the head of the head of the military, Colonel Peckham. Like who plays Colonel and I didn't see a Colonel Peckham. And
Wait,
there
there's
just
nobody. It's
there's
only
just
from the perspective of the survivors.
and on one level I like it because you gives you a chance to really get to know those characters, but on the other hand,
Agreed.
like you're missing half the movie. And I think a sequel to this movie really could have been the side story of what happens, what like
Mhm.
the military response. Like the guy who they flip the fucking car over, like they flip the caravan over. Like that guy could be a prominent character, and you get this moment where the two stories intersect, and you get that scene that plays in both movies. That would be really cool. And then the
Yes.
third movie is, what happens in Cedar
Well,
Rapids and how it's spreading. Like you could
and
absolutely build a franchise from this movie.
maybe I think to a smaller extent, the scene with the guy where they flip his car over does harken back to some of just the hopelessness of the original, to where every
Mm-hmm.
time we think we're getting somewhere, snuffed out.
Exactly.
And it's
But
it's not as big of a beat
I
as
was gonna
any
say
of
it doesn't
those.
go quite deep enough. Like
But
it's not visceral.
I
It's
feel
not
like it kind of
felt.
calls back to the original in that way, to where the guy's like, "Oh, okay, I'll straight up tell you. Here you go. This is what's happening. You need to go to," and then he's fucking dead.
Right.
And you're like,
Right.
"Wait a minute, hold
Mm-hmm.
on."
Yeah.
Like I said,
Yeah.
not as big as the beats in the original, but I do feel that that was kind of the same sort of vibe they were going for with that.
And I
And
can
for
tell
me,
that
it was effective enough.
right. And you can tell that that's what they're going for, but to the degree to which they're successful, like particularly when you're comparing it to Romero's film, it feels like it
Well,
falls a little flat for me.
well, and if anything, it's more of a callback. Just that one part, I think, because this is, even though it's essentially the same story, it's a very different movie. First of
Mm,
all, it's a movie. Like, it's a real honest to God movie. Whereas like the original Crazies, I don't even know what that is. It's wonderful, but I don't even know what it is.
right.
I'm glad it is whatever it is, but I don't know what it is. But
Right.
the remake is an actual movie, so it
It
kind of
is.
has to follow movie rules,
Mhm.
you know. And I think for what it is, it does the best job that it possibly can. But I would not be being honest if I didn't say I also missed some of just the utter hopelessness and brutality of the original. It is implied a lot in the
Right.
remake, and there are a few scenes that kind of call back to where it's like, remember how fucked up it was in the original? Well, this is kind of fucked up too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but also we're a real ass movie, so we can't get can't get too crazy with it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Um, and then the other thing, and this is the thing that really knocked the movie a half star for me, is the repetition of certain things.
Like what?
Like, for starters, the fact that the deputy is always saving the sheriff's ass, always.
There are a few too many. Like, it's a real ass movie, so people have to come in at the exact last minute to save the person who's about to get killed,
he
and
has
that
to step
happens
on the
every time in this movie. And
it
speaking of, if
it feels contrived. Like, the first time you're like, okay, good. The second time you're like, what the fuck? The third time you're like, okay, fuck, what are we doing here? Jesus. Like,
for me, it's spread out enough that like I notice it, but I don't care, because like there's so much good in between. And I was just thinking what we were saying about things that harken back to just like those sudden instances of we're getting somewhere and then suddenly we're not.
mm-hmm.
The car out of the car wash when that
Mm-hmm.
helicopter just bap, like
Yep.
they're like, oh good, the car's out, we could nope.
Mm-hmm.
I fucking love that scene. Like every
Well,
time they do those little nods, I'm way
mm-hmm.
into it, because they're not as the stakes aren't as big, but still, it's like, oh man, it's really creative the way they do it. I think in this
Speaking
film.
of the car wash scene, this is the second movie that we've talked about on this podcast where it is a remake of a horror film from the 2000s in which Danielle Panabaker dies a pretty vicious death. Because we also covered the Friday the 13th remake, and she does the exact same thing in that.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, wild. I don't think she dies in Piranha 3 Double D, but if she does, that would be a third one. But we wouldn't cover that on this podcast because that is a sequel to the reboot of Piranha.
And we have taste.
Do we, though?
I thought the first one was good. Look,
I love
John Gulager. John Gulager is one of those guys like John K minus the pedophilia.
You're the son of your boy Clue Gulager.
Yeah, dude. So he directed Feast, which Feast is a wonderful anti-horror movie. It's the best kind of spoof without being a spoof kind of movies, and it's great, and I love it. But it's only that great because John Gulager's so brilliant, but little Ben Affleck and little Matt Damon were back here being like, hold up, pull that back just a little bit, bud. Take about 20% off the top, you're gonna be perfect. They weren't there for the sequels.
Right.
They were awful. The first Piranha remake, there was somebody, maybe it was the studio, I don't know, that was keeping him in check. Double D, boy must have had Final Cut, because whoo boy, that movie just goes way too far.
It has the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2 thing where the first one is successful enough that they'll let you do whatever you want for the sequel, and you do, and it kind of ruins the thing.
Though, but not for Spider-Man 2, though. What?
No, Spider-Man 2. Well,
but again, I know what you mean. Bad example, but I know what you mean. Yeah,
he's not. I mean, John Gulager is not Sam Raimi.
He's no Sam Raimi. No,
right.
He's a good filmmaker, I think. But like I say, he's the kind of guy like John K, where you kind of have to. He needs somebody to rein him in.
Yeah,
and a lot of great artists do, honestly.
Sure.
Not sure why we started talking about John Gulager, but it's a good place to stop, Steven. I'm giving you an editing point.
Daniel Panabaker's in Piranha 3 Double D. Yeah, I gotta go pee.
Yeah, go do it.
I will.
1, 2, 3, go.
I'm gonna unplug my headphones in case you want to serenade me again.
I'm not gonna sing to you while you pee, Steven.
You did it before.
Oh, I didn't know you were peeing before. I must not have been paying attention.
5 minutes later.
We were talking about that girl in Double D. And she's in Friday the 13th, and she's in this movie, and she dies.
She dies, yes. Daniel Panabaker straight up dies in this movie. She gets strangled by a crazy.
Yeah, and it's so sudden. That whole scene, it just... I really love that set piece because it seems like it's going to be very tropey, but it really, really throws you for everything that happens. It's not what you expect, and it never happens when you expect it to happen.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that comes down to writing, directing, editing as well.
Mm.
I just think everybody that worked on this movie did a really stellar job.
The other instance of repetition that really got on my nerves,
Uh-huh.
and I think it only happens twice, but it irked me the second time. I was just like, oh God, come on again. Is the sheriff's wife, Judy, will be doing something. And then we'll do like suddenly we'll just like move the camera and go a little wider, and there's a crazy standing in the background, just in the corner of the frame.
Hey, I agree with you, but that second one, if that noise hadn't been there, I wouldn't have seen that motherfucker. So
This movie is
every
dark as
time
a
I
son of a bitch.
every time I watch that movie, I'm always impressed by that because you're just watching her do her thing and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, this is nice. This shot's widening out. This is kind of a cool shot." And then the little noise comes in and you're like, "Wait, what am I supposed to be? Oh my fuck."
Yeah, yeah.
It's very
Well, and
effective.
I didn't even notice it until they cut back, like because they cut to the sheriff and then they cut back, and that's when I saw it when they cut back.
Wow. Wow.
Because this movie is dark as fuck.
It
There were moments of this movie I could not see a single thing that was happening on the screen.
Are you watching it upscaled or are you putting
I
your
watched it
TV
on
on
your
1080p?
the version on your Vudu. I've got my 4K TV on.
Okay,
So
you have your 4K TV on, but does it switch resolutions when it goes to a lower resolution or does it stay 4K?
oh, it probably stays 4K.
That's why it looked like garbage because it was upscaling. You need to
Um,
figure out how to put your TV into 1080p mode so that you can watch stuff that's not in 4K and it doesn't look like glossy garbage.
but yeah, I couldn't see like half this movie. This movie was dark
That's
as
too
shit.
bad, man. This is one maybe you should have watched on your phone.
I don't do that if I can help it. Okay, I only do
Hey,
that when I need to.
for me, it depends on what it is, what kind of movie it is,
Sure,
or show, and if I've seen it before is a
sure,
very big factor.
sure. Understood. I mean, I watched most of the movies I watched in 2020 on my phone because that was just the easiest and best way to watch them.
That's
So,
fair.
but
It's fair as fuck.
but yeah, I mean, this one I watched on my big ass TV, man. I watched that shit in 4K.
And those are your gripes.
Yeah,
So
man.
how about that? How about that pitchfork scene?
It's pretty rad, dude.
Ooh wee.
It was pretty rad. I mean, it's the poster, so you're kind of expecting it. So when it happens, you're doing the Leo points at the screen thing.
Yeah.
But
But
then
it
like
deserves to be on the poster. That's
it
that's
does.
a really big moment, with the exception of, as we talked about before, there are a few too many last minute convenient saves in this movie, and that scene
Mhm.
ends with
That's
that.
definitely one of them. Yeah.
Outside of that, it's fantastic. It's just unnerving.
Like this
Very
could be
well
called
paced,
Close
very well
Call the
shot.
movie or Deus Ex Machina the movie. Like
Yeah. Somebody's always there.
someone's conveniently always right where they need to be.
Yeah.
But like not a moment too soon.
No, we got to get some danger and some real danger in there
Yeah.
first.
But it never, because you expect that, like it never really feels as dangerous as it should. Again, it feels more like a movie, whereas with Romero, you don't doubt that any one of these fuckers could die at any second, and you half expect them all to. Like that's the thing. Like you expect them all to get, because again, you're, at least when we watch it now, we're kind of expecting, well, this is the zombie guy, and these are zombie adjacent. They're not zombies. They're not dead.
Yeah.
But like they have that kind of, it's a similar kind of thing. Like they're infected by something and it causes them to act abnormally. So in that regard, like you're expecting something like that, but it just never hits quite the same. And whereas this movie, like you're always expecting the hero's going to jump out and have the hero moment, because this again feels very much like a Hollywood movie.
For me, the perfect remake cannot be as good as the original.
No.
And that's why for me, this is the perfect remake, because it does exactly what a remake is supposed to do. And what a remake is supposed to do is supposed to take an old film that people like and rejigger it a bit and modernize it a bit, put some modern sensibilities in there, clean it up, put a little bit more money into it. Bam.
I
And
mean, and of course, we all know the remakes that are better than the original. We're looking at like The Fly, The Thing.
I'm very I want to say Cape Fear, but the original's so good too, but they're so different. That's the
They
thing. Like
are.
I don't feel like I can compare them. They are the same movie, but they're so different tonally.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the same story. Robert Mitchum shows up too in that one.
He
Shows up in both of
does.
them. Robert
Yeah.
Mitchum like a motherfucker.
Mitchum like a motherfucker. We do love us some Robert Mitchum. We were talking about Robert Mitchum before we started recording, but yeah.
I'm always talking about Robert Mitchum.
As
Robert
well as
Mitchum
you
and Billy
should.
Ocean. Those are my two go-tos.
Robert Mitchum like a motherfucker.
Yeah, dude.
Like no, it's but and I would Little Shop of Horrors, I would say the remake is better than the original.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I
Like
agree.
those are my big three. Like
For me,
remakes
Night
better
of
than
the
original.
Living Dead, but we've already established that you do not agree with that.
I do not, no.
Which is fair. Yeah. I
'Cause
feel like there's
just feel like the original is just like a masterpiece. I have heard, I cannot vouch for this, but I've heard that the Alexander Aja remake of The Hills Have Eyes is better than the original.
I don't think it's better, but it's a lot like this movie where it is a perfect remake. It does exactly what a remake is supposed to do. I'm glad you mentioned that because I didn't even think about it, but I feel the same way about that film.
I just know that friend of the podcast, Samuel Dumas, is very strongly of that opinion. So
I didn't realize Sammy agreed with me on that. That's
no. He's
we'll
of the opinion that it is better than the original.
Oh, well, I'm interested to hear why. I'll probably agree with the reasons, but I might not agree that it's better.
I was gonna say you'll see him this weekend, I'm sure.
I know, dude. We'll talk about it.
We're gonna talk
also, the sequel to the remake is a fun little movie too. It's
I've heard that as well.
It's not good. Well, I mean, it's good for what it is, but it's not. It's kind of a weird sequel to the original.
Garbage and maybe one of the worst things that Craven's ever directed.
But see, the sequel
That's
to
Craven
the remake,
in desperate need of a paycheck is The Hills Have Eyes 2.
That the sequel to the remake is more of a they just use the characters from the original as like slasher villains. And you have a team of like an army unit that's out looking for them or for something, I don't remember, and they just pick them off one by one, man. It's simple, it's stupid, but it's really well done.
I mean, that's
the performances are great, and it's just Predator. It's Predator with nuclear hillbillies.
Okay.
And it's really amazing. It's a little movie though. It's just a little teeny squirt of a movie. It's nothing to like get too excited about, but for what it is, it's really good. I recommend it to anybody who just wants a fun hour and a half. It's good times. But yeah, like I say, The Hills Have Eyes remake, I think, is the same with Last House on the Left. I don't know if you saw that, the remake of that.
I think I saw that one before I saw the original. I saw that one, and I actually had to walk out on the remake because I was like, I can't watch this. I think my roommate was watching it with.
Really, I thought it was.
I couldn't stick with it.
I thought it was tame by comparison to the original.
Well, again, I hadn't seen the original at that point. Like I've since. I did the remake of a couple, I think during quarantine when I was just like, I want to watch a lot of Wes Craven movies. So I watched like a shit ton of Wes Craven during that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it's got Aaron Paul in it. And our boy from Raising Hope.
Garrett
with
Dillahunt.
the face. Yeah, that guy.
Garrett Dillahunt.
He's in it as well.
From Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead.
Now, Last House on the Left, it's not a perfect remake like the Crazies or The Hills Have Eyes, but it's more in the RoboCop category where it does a pretty good job of doing what it's supposed to do. Above average job of remaking a movie is what I'd say. It's pretty good. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Hi, I'm Tucker and I like movies.
Nah, we like movies. Movies are fun. So what exactly... So I guess I would like for you to elaborate a little further, if you could, as to what makes this movie, in your words, a perfect remake?
Well, like I said before, it stays pretty close to the original premise, which this one does. It's no Dawn of the Dead where it's just, hey, zombies, mall, Dawn of the Dead, right? Like,
Right.
no, it's the Crazies. It is the it's unmistakably if you saw this and it weren't called the Crazies, you'd be like, how is this not a remake of the fucking Crazies?
Right. Fair.
Um,
Particularly because all the character names are functionally the same.
yeah, they sure are. But I think that the script uses the original as a foundation,
Mhm.
and what it builds on top of it, I think it kind of fits the mold of a perfect remake. Where I said to where like you update the setting, you update the characters, update the dialogue, update the story a little bit, inject a lot more money into it, get some
Mhm.
stars in there, and that's what makes a perfect remake. Something that carries the tone of the original, that gets the original and does something very similar to it in the same vein, while also kind of being its own thing and telling its own story.
Fair enough.
And that's why it's the perfect remake, man. Because it, for me at least, and I
Right.
hear what you're saying. I understand your gripes about it. Like that, those things don't bother me, but I get it. Like I'm aware that those things exist. They just don't bother me.
Sure.
But
Which is
to me,
fair.
that's why. Yeah, that's why it's perfect. Because for me, it hits every one of those perfectly. It's perfectly updated. I think the setting works so much better now, it being like in Iowa, where instead of it being like hill country, it's like flat nothing country.
Right. It's farm
Instead
country.
of instead of Evans City, it's just fucking fields. And Evans City is hilly as fuck. I don't know if you've ever been to Evans City,
I have not. No, I don't think I've ever
but
been to that state at all.
it is very
Pennsylvania. Whatever.
hilly. In fact, they're not kidding at the beginning of Night of the Living Dead. You do have to drive up a big windy road just to get up to that fucking cemetery because it's on a cliff. That cemetery is literally on a cliff.
Oh, jeez. Have you
If
been
you ever
there?
go through Pennsylvania, yeah, several times. I initially went there because it was the cemetery from Night of the Living Dead, but then I
would
just
think
fucking
so.
fell in love with it, man. And every time I go through Pennsylvania, I go through there.
Right on.
Spent the night there once. It was beautiful.
In the cemetery? That's wild.
Yeah. Oh, I met some deer. It was cool.
Just had yourself a little like Snow White moment out there with all the woodland creatures.
I guess there's an eyelash in my mouth or something.
I was gonna say you're picking at your tongue like you just like
It's
you've got
really
an
gross. I'm
errant
sorry.
hair.
This is really gross.
Yeah, this is great podcasting, is what this is.
Oh my god, did I get it? I felt it. It felt even bigger. It might be like an actual hair from my head. Is it? Where's that come? Oh my god, I'm
I think
so
your tongue is
uncomfortable
just,
now.
I think your tongue is just growing. You're uncomfortable. God, you don't have to watch you do this.
I can turn the camera off. It is pretty disgusting. Hold up. Wait, where's the camera off button?
I can turn it off for you.
Okay,
There you
keep
go.
talking, Steven.
You got it.
Ah.
I can't keep talking through this.
I think it's too far back in my mouth. I'm gonna have to take a drink and swallow it. I feel
Yeah,
like.
just drink some water, dude. Like, why are
Oh,
you?
but I
biting
had
your
it.
tongue?
I had it. Oh, I hate hair in my mouth. Ugh. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, Crazies is a perfect remake, and that's why. And I think I got the hair out of my mouth. No, it's in my throat now. Perfect, Steven. Perfect. Now there's hair in my throat. You know how hard that is to get out?
Just drink some more water, dude.
Water? Water's for poor people, Steven.
Yeah, well, you know me.
You're down with OPP?
I mean, who isn't?
Not me. That's gross. That's cheating, Steven. That's bad. You should be able to trust your partner, Steven. No OPPs, Steven.
I don't think I know what OPP stands for. Sorry.
Really? Okay, so you're not familiar with the song. Okay. Well, in
I
that
mean,
case,
I know that line, but yeah, I don't know what it stands for.
OPP is a song about having relations outside of your relationship.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm
OPP
not.
meaning other people's. You get
Oh,
it?
I do.
You get it?
Genitalia, yeah.
Yes, of either kind. They both start
Right.
with P with various
Do.
slang terms,
Sure.
Yeah, so if you're down with
Yeah.
OPP,
No, I'm not.
yeah. Fun
No.
song, not down.
Sure. No. I think I know that from Sister Act 2 when they repurpose it and say you down with God. That's what
I
I'm
love the
familiar with.
Sister Act movies, Steven. I love them so much.
I do
Is
too.
the third one gonna happen? Is it
No.
happening?
I'm pretty positive it won't.
They keep starting and stopping and starting and stopping, and it's was gonna be like on Disney Plus or something.
That seems like a thing. I mean, Kathy and Jimmy kind of lives on Disney Plus these days.
There's a poster.
Oh, geez. Are you serious?
They're in pre-production. Keke Palmer's gonna be in it.
I mean, I do love me some Keke Palmer.
Me too. I'll watch the shit out of this. Jennifer Lewis is gonna be in it. Of course, Kathy, what's her nuts is gonna be in it too.
The Jimmy, Kathy and Jimmy.
Yep.
I mean, Bette Midler? What?
I hope they get all of the surviving other nuns back too, because some of those ladies were old. I'm sure some of them are dead.
Why is Bette Midler on the name on the poster but not listed on the? I mean,
Dude, I don't know.
Bette Midler was supposed to be the original Dolores, right? You know that.
I could see that, and that would be rad. But I'm glad they went with Whoopi. I'm so glad they went with Whoopi.
The joke was that it's a Jewish nun. Like that was the joke initially.
I guess.
Was that Bette Midler was
is that a joke? Like, I'm just kidding.
That
no,
was
I get
the
it.
joke.
I get it.
But yeah, then they changed it to Whoopi, and they're the rest, as they say. But
is in Harvey Keitel's filmography.
Yeah, that boy, howdy is it. But yeah, the Crazies, man, Crazies remake.
Let's talk about Sister Act. I'm just kidding.
Whenever I just want to feel catharsis, I put on the O Maria scene from the first movie, and I cannot help but cry by the end of that. By the end of that song, I am bawling like a child.
Yo, the first movie's a masterpiece, and the second movie is great, but it wouldn't be half as great without Lauryn Hill, dude. That second movie fucking slaps so hard. Ooh, Sister Act like a motherfucker.
Yeah, that also has one of my formative childhood crushes. Alana Ubach is
okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, I had a massive crush on Alana Ubach when I was a kid. I was a weird kid, but yeah,
I think we all did.
I mean, we should. She is also the reason why I learned the entirety of the Love Boat song because she sings it in that movie. So yeah, there you go. The Crazies, man, the Crazies. What else we got to say about the Crazies, man? Is pretty good. Is okay.
It's fucking rad, and Timothy Olyphant is great, and the dude that plays the deputy is great. I think the sound design is really good. I learned about something. One of the first jump scares ever was in the original Cat People, and that's why the original name for a jump scare was like a bus break or something, because that's what it is. Like, there's this very quiet like chase scene in Cat People. You've got to see Cat People, Steven. It's so up your alley, dude.
It's been on my list for a long
Watch
time.
it right now, Steven. But anyway, there's this chase, and it gets really intense, and it's just footsteps. You just hear footsteps. That's like the only sound. And then all of a sudden, like a hydraulic brake from a bus is like and it's like right there. It's like a huge jump scare. You're like, what the fuck? And they redo it, but they double down on it in the remake, and it's really rad. They redo the pool scene in the remake too, which is pretty rad as well. You'll know what I'm talking about once you see it.
Interesting.
Okay. But anyway, yeah, that's like where jump scares got their start. Why did I mention that? I was mentioning Cat People for some reason.
I mean, we're talking about the Crazies.
But no, I was saying, sound design.
Yes.
Yeah. There was definitely some of that, those quick cuts in the remake and in the original, actually. Those quick cuts where something is very still and then it cuts into something very not still. You know what I mean?
Frenetic, yeah.
What was the movie we were talking about that did? Oh, Exorcist. The
Yes.
Exorcist does that so fucking well. That's the master class right there. That's how you
Agreed.
fucking do it.
100%.
But both of these movies do it pretty well too, I think.
It does
And
feature
Cat People
one of
as
my
well.
least fit. The last two movies actually that we've discussed on this podcast feature one of my, and I didn't mention it last week, so I'll go ahead and mention it now. One of my least favorite kinds of jump scares, which is the final shot of the film. Just a face just jumps in frame
So
and
fucking
screams
stupid.
at you.
It's
I
the
hate
worst.
it. I hate it. It's cheap and it should never fucking happen. And I hate
That's
it
a
so much.
Halloween scare. That's a haunted house scare. That's a
Yes.
trick or treat scare. That's not. That's a little fun scare you have with your friends. That's not some shit you put in a movie and expect people to fucking respect it at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's something both the Day of the Dead does and the like, I don't know, it's not a post credit scene, like mid credits, I guess, scene. That also does that too. And I'm just like, fuck this, fuck that. I hate it so much. I don't like it, like even a little bit. I think it's awful.
I liked how that mid credit scene started.
I did too.
Yeah.
Because again, that sets you up for like everything set in that like in the final shots of the film proper, and then in that mid-credit scene sets you up for what the sequel could be. Like they're heading into Cedar Rapids, they think they're safe, and then you zoom out to the satellite view, and then you see Cedar Rapids, Iowa population, da 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 da, and then in the bottom right hand corner it says commence containment protocol, which you saw over Ogden Marsh once it started. And so you know the whole shit they've just gone through, they're going to go through again.
Well, and see, maybe that's how you get more of the military angle in the sequel is they get there.
Yeah.
It's already gone to shit. And maybe you have like an outbreak situation where like you have kind of your representatives from military and civilian kind of representatives. Like you've seen Outbreak, right? Dustin Hoffman and Morgan Freeman.
No, I haven't, but I know the gist.
Oh, Steven. I feel like, I was thinking about this too while I was watching both of these movies. I was like, I should tell them to watch Outbreak too because it's so similar. It should also be credited as a remake, kind of. It's really good, though. Outbreak is amazing. Yeah, you should definitely check that out. If you liked these two movies, Outbreak is like the big 90s tentpole version of that. You remember those big 90s tentpole movies, like those serious thriller dramas?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
dude.
Yeah.
Outbreak is like the pinnacle of those kind of movies, and it's really good. I mean, look at the cast. Look at the director. I mean, you can't go wrong.
Fair enough.
Outbreak, that's a recommendation to anyone listening and also to Steven.
I'm listening.
Yeah.
So yeah, The Crazies comes out February 26, 2010. It is made on a budget of $19 million. It opens at number 3 the week it comes out to $16 million on its way. So it makes almost its entire budget back in its opening weekend on its way.
This is an interesting week, though. I'm excited for you to say who's ahead of this movie.
I bet you are. So it on its way to $39 million domestic, and then a total worldwide box office of $56 million. So the worldwide box office ends up being about 3 times the production budget. A pretty decent return on investment, but apparently not enough to garner a sequel. I think they're looking for bigger
they
and better.
promoted the hell out of this movie, man.
They
I
did.
remember there were mobile games, like there were trailers everywhere. It was they kind of expected it to be a huge thing. It was a decent thing. Like it made some money, but it wasn't anywhere near what they expected it to be.
Right. So yeah, and unfortunately that's kind of where this ended then. Opening at number 1 this week at the box office, a little film by our good buddy Uncle Marty, Shutter Island.
Yeah, dude.
We have duly appointed federal marshals.
I always forget that that's a Scorsese movie, and apparently so does he.
Yeah. So there's a question going around Twitter this week. It was like, what was the first Martin Scorsese film you ever saw? and what's the first Scorsese film you ever saw in theaters? And someone said the first one I saw in theaters was Shutter Island, quote to air parentheses, but don't tell Marty, which I thought was really funny.
That's the first of his movies that I saw in theaters. Not the first that I saw of his. The first I saw was Bringing Out the Dead, and then Taxi Driver, and then I think Raging Bull, etc.
My answer to both of those questions is The Aviator.
Oh, word. I think I saw that at the movie theater too.
Well, that came out before Shutter Island. So if you saw it in the movie theater, The Aviator is your
Did it
first
though?
Scorsese movie. It came out in 2004, dude.
Okay. All right. I see. We're in timeline B. Okay. Gotcha. No, that tracks. Yeah. Anyway.
Also known as the Sacred Timeline.
Timeline A is the sacred timeline. My sister was born on the 12th in timeline A. She's born on the 14th in timeline B. That's how I can always tell which one I'm in.
Anyway.
Both of them, though, strangely enough, it's Berenstain. But I still have that memory of Berenstein, so like I don't know how that works. But in both of my timelines, Mandela effect in both of them, I guess. It's weird.
Number 2, the movie you're probably most excited to gush about, a little movie starring my boy Bruce Willis and your boy Tracy Morgan, directed by your boy Kevin Smith. A little movie called Cop Out.
How much did that movie make this week, Steven? What did it get?
It opens this week. It opens to $18.2 million domestic.
And that was its opening week?
That was its opening weekend.
Okay.
It earned...
Yeah, it was supposed to do 30. That was the whole thing.
It was made on a budget of 37. And
in a row?
What you did, it's there, and I see it. It only makes about a little less than 45 domestic.
Oh,
and
okay.
And 56 worldwide, so it does not multiply very well at all.
That's too bad. Look, it's not great, but I don't understand what everybody's big fucking hate boner for that movie is. It's fine. It's not like aggressively bad. There are far worse ways that you could spend an hour and a half. And I think Tracy Morgan's pretty funny in that fucking movie.
I think Cop Out is the only Kevin Smith movie I've never seen.
It's not good, but it's also not bad. Like, it's fine. It's perfectly fine.
I think it is the only one of his films I've never seen.
I really don't understand why everybody hates it so much. Like, what were they expecting? Like, my expectations were exactly where they needed to be, which is why I had a good time with it. Like, you should check yourself before you wreck yourself. The first thing that Kevin Smith did without Scott Mosier, buckle in, motherfucker. Like, what ride do you think you're taking?
Right. Another one of those, great checks and balances partnerships there.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah. In fourth place, rather, down from 3 the week before, in its 11th week in theaters with a $707 million box office so far and counting, Jimmy Cameron's Avatar.
I saw that at the movie theater.
I did too. I saw that one in IMAX 3D.
But you know what? Nobody saw the second one.
The second movie made a shit ton of money though for a movie that no one saw.
Conspiracy, Steven. It's a conspiracy, man. Like I said, I don't know anybody who gives a fuck about that movie, and I know a lot of people who give a fuck about movies. Nobody cares, man. Nobody cares.
In fifth place, a movie that could have absolutely been discussed on this podcast, but for its regrettable sequel, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief.
I'm so glad that it got a sequel because there are few things that I'm less interested in than shitty YA movies. Like, I'm cool with some decent YA movies. Like, throw a Hunger Games my way. All right, whatever. Like, I've had worse times.
About a YA movie next month.
Which one is it?
Well, I'll tell you after we're done.
Can you do it in sign language? Do you know sign language, Steven? Do you know ASL?
I don't.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, that's hello, I guess. That's one way to say hello.
I just did semaphore, dude.
Oh, he's typing. What is it? Wait, is that
That's the name of the movie. Yeah.
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
There it is.
So I
That's
have
what
zero expectations, so maybe, that gives me
we
a
have.
clean slate to watch the movie on so I can appreciate it and shit on it for its merits and faults.
But do you see what I was trying to do there with my semaphore?
I did, Steven. Good job.
Thank you.
It just looked like a regular wave, though.
Rounding out the top 10, it wasn't. It was further down the line. Rounding out the top 10, we have a Valentine's Day in number 6. I think that's that Gary Marshall movie. In 7th place, Dear John, which I'm pretty sure is a Nicholas Sparks movie. In 8th place, future episode of this podcast, Benicio del Toro's The Wolfman, directed by Joe Johnston.
I hated that movie, surprisingly.
We gonna talk about it one day, man.
But no, I hated it because of what it could have been. Like, I watched it. There's so many missed opportunities where they were almost there, Steven. It's such a frustrating movie. I'm sorry. I can't wait to talk about it because, boy, I've got a lot to say about that.
I would never have guessed that you would have a lot to say about anything.
Boy.
In 9th place, The Tooth Fairy. What if The Rock was the Tooth Fairy? And in 10th place, from a holdover from the year before, an Oscar player, Jeff Bridges' first Oscar win, finally gets one, is what I'm trying to say. Crazy.
Get on with it, Steven. Crazy Heart, where
Heart.
he's on the cover and he's got the guitar. Did you ever see that?
I didn't. No.
Yeah, me neither. I have no idea what it's about. I don't know anybody that's seen it.
The song won the Oscar though, and so did Jeff Bridges. So good for him.
I think it's on my Voodoo though.
Probably. You got a lot of stuff on your Voodoo.
Stuff that I have no interest in. Yeah.
The Tomatometer
people were just giving me codes blindly for a couple years there, so it was just
nice.
like people give me codes, and I'd be like, I don't know what this is, but let's see. Anyway, Tomatometer
score for the Crazies is a 71%. The critics' consensus: tense, nicely shot, and uncommonly intelligent. The Crazies is a horror remake that unusually works. The Metascore is a 56 based on Mixer average reviews from 31 critics. And the Letterboxd score is a 3.0. Tucker, out of 5 stars, how are you rating 2010's The Crazies?
This gets a 4 from me. Had it not been a remake of something, it would have been a 3.5, but it gets an extra star just because it's such a good example of what I think a remake should be.
And it did get a 3 from me, but again, all that repetition knocked it down a half star, so it gets a 2.5 from me.
I can dig it.
The original gets a 3.5. I like the original quite a bit, but
OG's a 5 for me. There are things about that movie I hate, but the things I hate about it are also what makes it great, if that makes any fucking sense.
Makes perfect sense to me. Absolutely. I get it, man. I do. 100%. But yeah, that is our episode covering the 2010 remake of The Crazies, and dare I say it, the end of our 4th annual Spooky-thon. That's it.
It's the end of Spooky-thon. We did all our Patreon stuff. We had the Exorcist thing. That was our Patreon thing this month, right?
It was.
Well, shit.
Look, if you guys want to hear us talk for about an hour and a half about the religious implications of the 1973 horror classic The Exorcist, or if you want to hear what we have to say week after week talking about the shit that we've watched the week before, head on over to patreon.com/disenfranchpod. For just $5 a month, you get access to literal hours of content behind that paywall, which according to some of our patrons has been, quote, more than worth it. So we would be thrilled to have you in our number.
It also comes with a guarantee, Stephen.
Does it?
Being a patron comes with a guarantee, and that guarantee is that in just a few months, you will get to hear us talk about The Rage, Carrie 2.
Yeah, something
unenfranchised, only on our Patreon. You can only hear that on our Patreon. Even if you're friends with me, like when I paid Jimmy to do the theme song for What Are We Watching? And he's like, just send me the episode. And I'm like, man, you're not a patron. I just got to send you a snippet where your song is, dude. Can't fuck around. Sorry. I wish I could.
That's it.
Best friend. That's my best friend, Steven.
And he pays or he doesn't listen.
That's right.
That's what it is. But
Yeah,
yeah,
dude.
no. So yeah, head on over there. Yeah, you've been basically demanding we cover the Rage Carry 2 since before you were even a host on this show.
Before
You've
we
been
even knew
demanding
each
that.
other, I was shouting out into the ether, boys, I don't know what boys, but some boys, let's cover the Rage Carry 2 every night. Like before I went to bed, shout out my window. Hey, yo, Paulie, your sister's with me. I'll call you back later. JK, that's not what I say.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, but head on over to our Patreon, and honestly, there's so much great stuff back behind that paywall. So absolutely check that out.
Days.
If you don't want to support us monetarily, head on over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a nice, juicy 5-star rating and a review. That's probably the best way to help us as podcasters. To reach more people like yourselves. And we love you guys, and we'd probably like people like you too. So,
And if you can't be bothered to leave a review or a rating, just tell a friend, somebody who you think would enjoy the podcast. It's a very easy name. It's like Disenfranchised. You just, hey, it's the Disenfranchised podcast. People are like, I'll remember that.
or even better, like go on a long road trip with them, lock the doors, and just have nothing on your device except for episodes of the show.
Yeah. The really good ones. If you need a list, I got a list of like the desert island top 5. If you need them, I got them. I'll let you, boy.
We all have our favorite episodes. In fact, that is, I think, the subject of one of our very first
That needs to be redone. We need to revisit that.
Yeah, I think we did that for our, like 1 year anniversary or something. But yeah,
Word.
Our top 5 episodes of Disenfranchised. But yeah, so yeah, please, that really goes a long way. Shoot us an email, disenfranchpod@gmail.com. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know how you enjoyed the show. Let us know if you have any suggestions of movies that you would like to see us cover going forward. We do take all of those suggestions under advisement. So absolutely do that. You can follow us on the social medias. We are on, I'm thinking about phasing out the Twitter account, but we are on Instagram, Blue Sky, Letterboxd, and Facebook at disenfranchpod. I'm your host, Stephen Foxworthy. You can find me on Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky, and yeah, that's it. At Chewy Walrus. Tucker,
What happened to Threads, man? You still on Threads?
No, man, I'm out on Threads.
What was that one that was like called like Macho or something?
Mastodon?
Or like Tumultuous. Yeah, there you go, Mastodon. Yeah, what's that all about?
I didn't last long at all on Mastodon.
I'm keeping a running list of all these social media pages that you joined and then like abandon immediately.
Once Twitter like went to the dark side, like unabashedly, I got the fuck out of there. And so I've been trying to find a new home, and Blue Sky feels like that might be the place.
Very cool.
But yeah. So that's where I'm at. Tucker, where are you on socials these days?
I'm on YouTube as always. You know, you can check out my music and some old 45s that I've digitized for preservation purposes as well on my YouTube channel. I'm also on the Insta Scams. Both of those at Ice909, ICENINE.
I was about to ask if you said the name or not because I don't remember hearing it.
The number 0 and the number 9. And also on Instagram is the Tuck Mugs page, which we've been doing actually some more restructuring recently in the staff. It's like, look, we feel like we find good people and they do good work, and then something about having too many good people in one place, the interpersonal relationships, they get messy, so people have to go. You know, it's been an emotional week.
You really just need to stop flirting with the interns is really what it comes down to, Tucker.
It's been an emotional week at Tuck Mugs, okay? Look, people fall in love with me, Steven, all right? There's nothing I can do about that. What I'm supposed to do about that? I'm just over here being me. Anyway, we had to do some restructuring at Tuck Mugs. But I feel like we're going to be coming back strong sometime this week. Little known fact, my birthday is in just a few days as of time of recording, that is. By the time you hear this, it will have passed. But I'll probably post something pretty special that day.
Okay.
So look out for that. I've been working with the team to see what's going to be the best, what's going to really surf that fucking algorithm to reach as many people as possible. I've got my people on it, don't worry. And we'll see you in a few days at Tuck Mugs. That's Tuck_Mugs on Instagram.
All right. And our friend Brett Wright is on Blue Sky at Sus Warlock and on Instagram and Letterboxd at Sus_Warlock. And that is all we have for this year's Spooky-thon. Guys, thank
It's
you so
over.
much for being a part of it. It's our favorite tradition, and
yeah.
our most enduring tradition, and we do love
It's all
it
done.
so much. So thank you for joining us for Spooky-thon. We will return to regularly scheduled programming next week. I am your host, Stephen Foxworthy, for my co-hosts, Tucker and the absent Brett Wright. Until next time, we're going off the rails on a crazy train. Going off the rails on a crazy train.